All right, first guy up, Caleb Williams, quarterback USC, 6'1", 214 pounds. He had 9 3/4-inch hands and 32-inch arms. He is 22 years old. He'll be 23 in November. That's all we got on the measurables. He didn't do anything else there at the combine as far as testing or medicals or any of that good stuff. So that's really all we have to go on.
Yeah, so he didn't test out at his pro day, but you're talking about a player that, 2022 Heisman Trophy winner. People are talking like, hey, we'll be the first person since Archie Griffin to come out here and win back-to-back Heismans. Mm-hmm. And his 2022 tape is different than his 2023 tape. His 2023 tape is way more off schedule. Like a lot of things breaking down. His offensive line wasn't good. He obviously lost Jordan Addison. His receiving core wasn't as good. I know he had Brendan Rice, who
is fine.
He's fine. He's no Jerry. But, like things were way different in 2023. And his 22 tape is actually better than his 2023 tape. But when you look at a player that has the opportunity to join that Pat Mahomes echelon, like Caleb Williams has that skill set. When you're talking about a guy that could, he first of all, he senses pressure really good. Like he has really good pocket presence, really senses pressure really good, and can move. And he keeps his eyes downfield the whole time as well. And he gets rid of the ball at all different angles. And that's where he does Mahomes comps, right? Where like he's on the move, he's getting the ball out at all different angles. And he looks good there. Like, when you look at him in the red zone, like 46 touchdowns to 1 interception. Like those are fantastic numbers there when you look back at his old numbers. But somebody that can get out there, any different arm angle, he can make that throw. He's got a really good arm, can all 3 different levels of the field. His accuracy's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
There are times his ball placement is behind guys that are on crossers. So I do have some questions on that kind of stuff. You mentioned, Pat Mahomes, as he can throw from all these different angles. When he does that, it at times looks bad. Like he does it and it'll get to the guy, but it's not like a pretty pass by any means. It almost looks like he's trying to emulate Patrick Mahomes, but he's not quite as good as Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion, at doing that kind of off-scheduled and kind of goofy angles and all that kind of stuff.
And I think that word try to make, so after that, a couple words, try to make, is a real good, like, the epitome of, like, his 2023 season. Like, he tried to make things happen a lot.
I agree with that. And one of my notes is sometimes he just needed to throw the ball away.
Yeah.
Or just run.
Just throw the ball away. Like, don't try to make that pass. Don't try. You got to learn when you got to cut bait and just toss the ball out of bounds. And he was just trying to force some stuff. And those are the kind of things where I was like, this may be a bad decision. So I had a couple of questions on his decision making. I know he's out there trying to make plays. He is the type of guy, he's fearless out there and always wants to make a play. So I get why people love him. I get why he's gonna go first overall. So I don't want to make it sound like I don't like the guy. When I see him play, I just have some questions about him forcing things, and I have questions about he's constantly throwing off a bad platform, off a bad throwing angle. I want to see him more often drop back, do something on schedule, throw it, and that pass be accurate and on time and where it needs to be for the receiver to catch the ball and keep going.
I feel like this is a very somber talk for a guy that is probably going to be first overall and one of the best quarterback prospects that we've had over the past 5, 6, 7 years. Like, Caleb Williams is a fantastic athlete. When you watch, to me, when I watch him play out there, and yes, I agree, there was a lot of hero ball stuff at times. But when you have a defense that would struggle in the MAC, which his defense was truly like atrocious.
Right. He had no help.
Anytime they don't score a touchdown, you're thinking we might not be able to win the game. Like, if we don't score on every single drive, we might not win the game. And he still only threw 5 interceptions on the year. So even with all of that, he still wasn't, forcing too many bad throws. So I think overall, he's got a really strong arm. I think he's a fantastic athlete as far as being able to run and make plays with his feet. And when I see him outside of the pocket, which the NFL is moving to more of a off script, what can you ad lib? What can you do outside of structure? And I don't think that there's anybody better at that than Caleb Williams.
He lives there.
When he's out there, it's almost like he's playing chess out there with these guys. Watch his game against Washington, which is arguably the best defense that he played against all season. There are times where he would literally he varying his speed to defeat angles, spin moves in the open field, coming up and pressing the line of scrimmage, hopping up in the pocket to be able to make an on-time delivery. Like, he did all of those little things right. So for me, I know that there's been a lot of talk about other quarterbacks, and we'll get to them in both this episode and next episode. For me, it's Caleb Williams, and then we can have a conversation about everybody else in this class at the quarterback position. But for me,
and that's
it's
where
Caleb Williams.
I have a 1A, 1B.
So I went like, this was somebody I went full circle on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I came into it thinking this guy is the number one. He's been so hyped up. There's no way anyone's going to unseat him. And then I watched his tape, and then I watched some other people's tape, and I was like, oh, I can kind of see there's some warts here, and there's some. And then by the time I got all the way through the quarterbacks, I'd come back and be like, yeah, Caleb Williams is the guy. He's going to be the number one guy.
I came back and watched Caleb's last as well, and I was like, yeah, he should definitely be the number one pick in the draft.
He's the best guy here. So I didn't want it to be completely negative. Mm-hmm. I just don't want it to be completely positive.
Right. The only one thing I'll say is the number of fumbles that he needs to clean that up. 33 fumbles over the course of his collegiate career. That's a lot.
That's
a lot. And
a lot.
Part of that is that Brett Favre gunslinger mentality. That's, if I had one negative, that would be the big thing that he needs to clean up.
Okay, my bad.
Oh, no, you're good.
You had mentioned his legs. I think he's really good at moving around. I don't think he's ever going to be 1,000. He's never going to be a 1,000-yard guy. I doubt he's going to be like a 500-yard guy.
I think it'd be about 500.
But I was thinking like Aaron Rodgers-esque when he was young, like 250 to 400. He's going to live in that range.
He's going to be a lot like Mahomes. Like the comps are funny because it's like, okay, comparing with the best. And he might not end up having that ceiling necessarily. He does have the ceiling. He might not reach that ceiling though. But play style, it's a lot like Pat Mahomes.
I think he needs to get into an offense. I don't know what his best fit is, right? Like, we're talking about Cliff Kingsbury with the number 2 overall pick, possibly trading up and getting him. I don't know if that's the best plan. Somebody that knows him, knows what he can do, or somebody with fresh eyes in the NFL to teach him the pro game.
Sure.
Hey, these things, nail down these few things, incorporate that into your off schedule stuff, and the sky's the limit. Because if he, I think, marries a pro style approach where he can drop back, hit that back foot, and let go of the ball with his off schedule stuff, I think sky's the limit.
I will say this: he did a lot more of that the previous season. In his Heisman season, it was a lot more in rhythm, and you see it at times. It's not that he can't make in rhythm throws; like, he does it every game.
No,
it's just not his go-to.
The offensive line was pretty bad.
It's not his go-to, and I just wanted to see a little bit more accuracy in those situations. He was hitting the wide receiver, but maybe it was on the back shoulder instead of the front shoulder. That kind of stuff, little things that can be cleaned up.
Yeah,
and he could be an upper echelon guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the difference between a really good guy and an upper echelon guy, in my opinion, is just those little things that he needs to clean up. So,
yeah. As far as talent goes, I think it's just he's the most talented and offers the most upside out of all the quarterbacks, which is why he's going to be taken first overall. And I agree. I mean, I don't really have much to add with what you guys have gone over. I think everyone's probably talked about Caleb Williams' strengths and weaknesses to no end.
Yeah, absolutely.
The word
Beat
is.
that dead horse, so to speak.
Couldn't find my words.
you figuring out words, Rich.
But I think just coming from the Lincoln Riley offense and into the NFL, we've seen guys do it already.
Yeah.
And that one read and go type of system. I just think guys have kind of already defeated that con. And it's just he has to just get rid of that hero ball mindset that we saw in 2023. There's just a lot of like, why is he holding the ball on? Like, it kind of reminded me of Justin Fields when he was coming out. He's holding on to the ball so long.
He does have in this class. He has the longest. What is that? Time per snap, or whatever that exact terminology is. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's the longest in the class, which is, on one hand, I can understand how it's a little bit concerning, but when you actually watch, you're like, I understand.
He's running around.
Save
He's-
yourself.
He's rolling out.
He's making plays
moving
that
in
other
the
guys
pocket.
can't make.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson always has a really high one at the NFL. Like those types of guys tend to have longer time.
I will say, like, I watched Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels back to back because I know we're going to talk about him in the next show, but it was like almost night and day the way Jaden Daniels like was going through his progressions and like hitting guys in rhythm and
Right.
stuff. And
I agree with
Caleb
you.
Williams, I didn't see much of that at all, but you can just see the talent in there. And if they're able to get that going and get him in rhythm and making his reads the correct way, I mean, then the sky's the limit, obviously.
And when we're talking about that sky, I mean, we're talking about a guy here. This is a guy.
There it is.
Ding, ding.
This is a guy that, for being the number 1 overall pick at quarterback, is arguably going into one of the best situations outside of like Andrew Luck, probably, and they had all that cap space and around there. Situation of a number 1 quarterback that we've seen in a very long time, where he's going to a team, the Chicago Bears, that has a ton of cap space, that has a good tight end, has a true number 1 receiver in DJ Moore, and has another top 10 pick to put another really good receiver around him, or whatever they want to put around him.
Or offensive line, which they need as well.
Offensive line, which would be great, but they could probably fix that in free agents if they want. But
Maybe.
a lot of people have them trading back up in the top 5 to get like one of these good receivers. I would love to trade back up in the top 5 and get like a Joe Alt, right? Like get a really good offensive lineman, and then grab a receiver at pick 2-9 in the second round. Like, there's so much draft capital, is what I would do. But he's going to a really good situation already. So for him, that structure should already be better. They have a good defense. They have what you have DJ Moore to throw the football to. People are like, oh, let's give him a good young receiver. I mean, DJ Moore's 26 years old. He's a proven number 1 receiver. So
Beast.
for Caleb Williams and Superflex, he should definitely be the 1-1. I will say though, and we'll talk about when we get to the person next show, I'm in a situation where I did 2 drafts last year where you could take you put the draft picks a year ahead. We're doing an anniversary league as well. It's how I do. I just did another draft that way as well. All my future drafts I do that where I include both rookie picks. I had the 1-1 in both drafts, and I think I'm going to take one Caleb Williams, another one Jaden Daniels, and I'll explain why I think I'm going to take Jaden Daniels the other one in the next episode. We get to Jaden Daniels, but to me, I do have a 1A, 1B. And that's not from an NFL standpoint. If I'm running an NFL team, like I'm taking Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
But from
Absolutely.
a dynasty fantasy football perspective,
I get it.
man, that other guy sure makes my nips hard.
Dude. He gets you chunks.
Yeah, gets me chubbed. You're right.
Chunked.
So Caleb Williams, fantastic prospect. It's hard to find a perfect prospect. Even these receivers will be able to break down a little bit. Like, hey, they can do this and that. So Caleb Williams, arguably all of our 1-1 in Superflex leagues.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
Across the board.
Yeah, we'll see.
Did you say arguably our 1-1? Or
Well, I mean, I have a 1.
He has a 1B.
I like-
He's the only one.